どうもこんにちは。倉葉です。ザ・スタンリー、パラブルやっていきたいと思います。スタンリーパラブルっていう英単語についてちょっと調べてみたんですけど、スタンリーがおそらく国の名前で、パラブルがなんだっけ、パラブルが例え話という意味ですね。なんかメタ系ゲームなんか分岐が多いっていうのは聞いてるんですけど、あ、すごいこれ右下あれですね。画面が映ってる。ちょっとなんかマウスの表示がおかしいけど。なんだっけ、こういうの。なんて言うんだっけ。画面の中に画面がある。ドロステ効果ですね。その、雑談はこの辺にしてやっていきましょう。インターゲーム。あ、そういえばこれ、日本語化もっとあるんだっけ。日本語化してからやり直しましょうか。はい。日本語化モッドを入れてきたので、続きをやりたいと思います。ちょっと予算になるんですが、このゲーム入れるのめちゃくちゃ時間かかって、なんか僕がもともと本来のデフォルトのファイルから保存先を変えていたのもあって、もうなんかインストールするだけで2時間ぐらいかかってるんですよね。もうめちゃくちゃ難しいです、このゲーム。それじゃあ期待を胸に寄せてやっていきたいと思います。
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
見上げなくていいか。
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
427番。
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a
パソコン
keyboard.
カタカタね。
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how
本当
long
に
to
押すだけ
push
なんや。
them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day, every month of every year. And although others might have
何
considered
年や
it
ったん
soul
ですかね。
Stanley relished every moment that the orders
はい
came
はいはい。
as though he had been made
こういう
exactly
仕事でもね、楽しめる人は楽しめるんじゃないですかね。
was happy.
何年もって言われたらあれだけど、これで給
And
料
then
もらえるん
one
だった
day
ら
something very
全然いい
peculiar
気がするけど。
happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite
スタン
forget.
リーが主人公なのかな。
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had
Hello,
arrived on
Ryan.
the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete
一人で作業
isolation.
をするのはいいけど、孤
Something
独は
was
嫌なん
very
だね。
clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his
なんか
desk
動けそうな
and
感じがし
stepped
た。
out of
動
his
ける。
office.
このゲームはね、ザ・ビギナーズ・ガイドっていう別ゲームが、もうこの作者、他のゲームで、日本がやばい。この作者は、そういう別のゲームを作ってて、それは実況でだけだけど、見たことあって、面白いな、世界観はすごいいいなって思ってたんで、結構期待はしてますね。ちょっと画面用意
All
し
of
そ
his
うな。
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
はいはいはい。
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't
会
find
議
a
が、
trace of his
なかった。
co-workers.
しまったね。なんかいいね、この雰囲気。酔いそう。何のジャンルかもまだ聞かきでない。あ、ついてんじゃん、これ。C で拡大とかできねえな。あ、クリックできたわ。ちょっとマウスのさ、真ん中のポインターがないからさ、どこをクリックしてんのかよくわかんないよね。だから、クリックできないと思ったんだけど、できたね。この会社やべえな。その辺に一緒に散らばってる。そこの景色が見えない。少なくとも400人いるんだね。これも消えんのかな。あ、消えた。他人の PC の電源を落として回る。セキュリティ管理人の鏡や。457。鏡ではないと。後からいけるようになるのかな。4B6？ 16進数だとしたら結構部屋数増えるんじゃない？ 16 の3乗を4倍？計算がめんどくさいな。 配送中かな。あ、こぼしてんじゃん。誰だよ、ここでコーヒー飲んで。つって、飲みっぱなしと置いてくのもどうかと思うし、こぼして、そのままにしていくのもどうかと思うし。なんだろう。めっちゃ細い部屋。びっくりした。で、彼は左のドアに入りました。なるほどね。普通に逆に入ったらどんなナレーションをするのかは気になるよね。入りましたってさっき言ったもんね。これログとか見えないか。ね、入りましたって言って、いや、入りませんでしたってなるのかな。気になるんで、こっち行きましょう。
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
ああ、さっきのは、まあ、なかったことにされたのかな。左に入りました。いや、嘘です。入るつもりでしたならね、今のでも、文章が成り立つんだけど、はい、入ります、みたいな。クリックできないと。ドア開かないと。なんかね、めちゃくちゃ分岐があるゲームっていうのだけは聞いてる。
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments.
これは海外でよくある自販機だから、スーパーリミナルでもこういう似たような自販機見たし、GTA でも、しゃがめるやんけ。立ったまま、ゆっくり味わいましたって、俺今まさにしゃがんでしまったけど。ジュースは飲めないんだ。
Really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so
これは座ったせいで、これ変わっちゃったんかな。天の弱な人間になっちゃった。
Here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
まあ、一周目は特に考えずに。
Stanley took the first open door on his left.
廊下の左側にある最初のドアを通ります。何するためにって言ったっけ。やばい。しっかり読めばよかった。メンテナンスセクション素通りし。ああ、一回正しいルートに戻るか。あんまり変なことしてもしょうがないしな。これでじゃあ、あれかな最初に。ここは多分左のドアに合ってる。っていう感じなのかな。
閉まる。はい。
ああ、誰もいない。
Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
まあ、多分意味はないでしょう。おそらく。あるんだったら、俺が日本語弱な。お、広いと。ブルームクロージス。大きのクローゼット。
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
何もないって言われるとなんかありそうだね。大きく広がない。
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow. Just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
はい。なんかいたら、なんか起こりそうな雰囲気なんだけど。
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything.
これは居続けてみるしかないな、さすがに。残念ながら彼はただ立ってるだけです。なんかあんのかな。間違えてドア来たらなんか話変わりそうだからドアの方向けてクリックできねえんだ。このナレーションは誰なんだろうね。何か説明をしてください。いや、掃除したくて。このナレーションはね、一体誰目線なんだろう。私がスタンリーはその病事業を素通りしましたと言えば、探索してみる価値があったと思いますが。ああ、なるほどね。メタ要素ね、これ。なんかじゃあこの人は想定する物語が存在してて、僕に何かをさせようとしているかな。ルート向きがあるっていうネタバレ。最初食いのエンド見たか。ああ、俺の初めてのエンドこれになるんだよな。このワードと。
Stanley was fat and ugly and
だっ
really
て
really
手帳
stupid.
死んじゃうの
He
分かる。
probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is.
かわ
That
い
all
そう。
with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
嘘つくな、嘘。俺はドラッグなんかやってねえよ。
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now.
あなたは死んでいます。なるほど。俺は幽霊だったと。
Broom closet, explored it a bit, and we're just about to leave because there's nothing here.
キーボードの上に崩れてた。ここキーボードないですが。やっぱりこれゲーム世界なのか？
Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone
これはゲーム世界で
so as to ensure
このゲームをしているスタンリーがぶっ倒れたからキーボードの上に倒れた。
Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person
生きてる生きてる。ほら動いてるだろ。
He or she has fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place at the computer, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of American video gaming. So that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on
いかにもここにしばらくいる人が
Just step out into the hallway.
退屈しないようにさ、手の込んだレンチを作ってるじゃん。何も置かないんだったらさ、みんなすぐ出てくかもしんないけど、こんな綺麗なグラフィック見せられたらもう見るしかないでしょ。これはなんだ？トングか。これはなんだ？俺が知らない謎の道具か。どうしよう、これでさ、1時間待たないとエンディング見れませんみたいなんだったらさ、さすがに初見でそこまで待つ気力俺にはないぞ。次メッセージ出たら5分くらい待つか。今が午前11時11分なので16分ぐらいまで待ってみようか。それで何も出なかったらちょっと今回はやめてメインのストーリーに戻ると。はい、16分になりましたが何もありませんでしたね。一つ気づいたことは、しゃがむときに立ち上がる前にもう一回しゃがみを押すと超高速でしゃがみ直せる。はい、じゃあ出ます。
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board. I guarantee you can't do any worse than the person
前の
who
プレイ
did
ヤー
it
さ
for
ん。
you.
はい。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley
階段を持っ
walked
て上手の
upstairs
室
to
に
his
向かいました。
boss's office.
これ降りたらもう登れなくなるのかな。はい。フェイント。ああ、ダメでした。エクスキューティブバスルーム開かないってことだね。これついてるかな？ついてないね。幹部いないね。いい落ちてる。とりあえずマウスクリクリしてたから。電気はちょっと半端に使ってた。これも閉まるかな。まだ閉ま
Stepping
っ
into
た。
his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication
天
of
井
any
高
human
っ。
life.
監視カメラ。
Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him?
なんで
What
だ
he
ろう
could
ね。
not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that
デ
his
スクの
boss
後
had
ろ
been
にある
keeping
キーパ
from
ッドは
him.
どうしよう。
And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret pin number, 2845. But of
キーパ
course,
ッド。
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2845、2845、2845、忘れる忘れる忘れる。ちょっともします、もします、もします。俺の記憶力終わってるから。もうメモしてなかったら今にも忘れてる。
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs.
デスク
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never
キーパ
possibly
ッド
know that the
デス
combination was
クのキーパッド
2845.
これか。なんだっけ。28。間違えた間違えた。
2845.
2845。普通に今のは入力ミスなん
By
で。
simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to
2回目で
input
いっ
the
た。おい。
correct code by
え
sheer luck.
わお。
Amazing.
そ
He
っち
stepped into the newly opened
もう
passageway.
てっきりさ、もう絶対この本棚が動いてさ、隠し扉出ると思ったよね。みんな。この本棚の脱さ何？ なんか、ここ3段積むんだったらこっちに置けば、あんな高いとこ手伸ばしたくないし、あと天井高すぎ。これもともと何があったんだろう。勝手に閉まるかな、閉まらない。ここはなんだ。はい。多分何もいじってないです。じゃあ行きますか。何かしら選択できるものがあると、マウスカーソルができるんだね。お、ロード挟んだ。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit
奇妙
peculiar.
なことを感じ
It
てい
was
る。
a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question
今までは
the
無
nature
心
of
で
his
仕事をしてい
job.
た。
Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go
もう
unanswered
すでに
for
これ
long.
がスタンリーの心の声じゃないことは明らかになってるからな。ナレーションが。こういうエレベーター一回乗ってみたいよね。ちょっと怖いけど。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
マインドコントロール室とスケープ出口。まあ、とりあえずまっすぐ行くか。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to
こ
find
の仕事の
out?
秘密ってこと？怖くね？怖くね？なんでこんなところにさ、動く足場を作るの？怖すぎでしょ。これなんか映し出されるとこ見てみたいな。まだこういうこと？怖いって。ここ俺、高所恐怖症で泣いちゃうよ。ここで仕事したくねえな。こんな正面がこれでさ、このコーヒーとかさ、ちょっとさ、あってこぼしたらさ、奥のこっちにスーッと落ちてく。そこが見えるの怖すぎるでしょこれ。怪獣の鉄骨あたりじゃないんだから。
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
104 がファイ
Each
ヤ
bore the
ー。
number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on
な
a
んかエラー
screen.
起きてる。
And Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place.
まあ
where
別に
freedom
監視されて
meant
る
nothing.
のは別にいいけどね。そんぐらい。仕事中ぐらいはね、別に監視されてても何も問題ないけど。なんか、使い回してない？ちょいちょい。ファイヤーとかちょいちょいあるね。ちょいちょい、あの椅子の、ほら、同じの尽くしてる。こっち。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job?
誰か
That
に
his
支配されていた。
emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
別に、そんな突拍子ない話になる。監視されていたことと
He
考
refused
え
to
はね。
believe it. He couldn't accept it.
そんな
His own
のを
life
口され
in
てたわけじゃ
someone
ないし。
else's control? Never.
怖い
It
っ
was
て、怖いってこ
unthinkable.
れ。
Wasn't it? Was
怖
it
いよ。
even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
外の世界を見たことがない可能性はありそうだけど。
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with
俺
emotions.
悲しみ満足。
Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very
俺
place.
が
And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
マインドコントロ
For
ール。
he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
マスカーソルないから押してない気がするな。音だけな気がする。うわー、諦めるか。ちょっと悔しいけど。まあ、しょうがない。閉まらない。マインドコントロールアイドル。ライティングインプット。
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, He
これ
knew it was
さ、
his
俺
duty,
自身の電源をオフにしたらない大丈夫
to
精
put
神
an
失わ
end
な
to
い
this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just
待っ
activate
て
the
いいキーを
controls.
押したら
After they
クリッ
kept
ク
you
になってしまっ
enslaved
た
all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
オンにしてしまったよ
Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go. Turn the controls off.
あーそれは申し訳ないいやまあでも誰にもそのサービスはあるよねちょっとこんな機械音痴ってさボタン一つ押すの間違えちゃうからいやマジですわね
Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency
Wow.
detonation system.
そうつくなそう
This machine is activated
オフオフ
without proper DNA identification.
いや一気が決定なんて知らへんやんそんなの
Eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say
爆発することにすんな
2 minutes.
うー
Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley?
なんで
It's
お前
your time to shine.
何
You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires.
お前なんか
Oh, this is
操る
much better than
能
what
力
I
があ
had
る
in
の
mind. What a shame we have so
タイム
little
か忘れ
time
てたよ
left to enjoy it. Mere moments
あれ
until
さっき
the
までなかっ
bomb
たよね
goes
押
off.
す時
But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means.
あこれでようやくあれか
I
ミ
barely know where to
ッション
start.
始まったのかな
What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're
さっき
obliterated.
まで出なかったもんね
All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them.
あ同僚は
I
どうなったの
raised
か
them. I turned off the machine. I set you free.
マシンの電
Of
源
course,
を切れ
that
よ
was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone.
俺がずっとボタンを押し
Other
続けるゲー
times,
ム
I let the office sink into the ground,
あ、なん
swallowing
か
everyone
5先に押したのに
inside.
開いたな
I let it
は
burn to a crisp. I
は
have to say this though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make
40
sense
秒
of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm
なんでしま
sure
ったの
whatever I come up with on the next go around will be even better.
3
My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not?
3
These are precious
3押せって
additional
こと
seconds, Stanley.
待って待って待って
Time doesn't grow on trees.
あまだ1分あるあれさっき2分だったよね
Dear me,
あ
what's
れ
the matter,
長くね
Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now?
3 押
Did
し
you
たよ
just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking
3
on
押し
every
たけど
little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten?
4色
One solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
何でドア開いてたんださっきたまたま 2
You're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a
50秒
spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst. to
誰か
get
来
you
た
back.
ちょっと待ってピンポン来ちゃったはい郵便が来てしまいました
Moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death.
どう
You're
何
only
してたっ
still
け
playing
2
instead
を
of
押す
watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made.
なんか変わってるな明らかに
This is not a challenge.
かといってあと30秒
You wanted to control this
Hero.
world, that's fine. But I'm going to
Oh.
destroy it first, so you can't.
グッドバイエブロ
Take a look at the clock, Stanley.
Hi, hi,
That's
hi,
30
hi,
seconds
hi.
you have left to struggle. 30
早く
seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending.
なんかもう表示なくなったんだけど
Pieces.
なんか押
Will
し
you
た
cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go
はいボ
peacefully?
タン押した
Another choice.
うわ
Make
ー
it count.
画面揺れがすごい
It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will
ちょせめて真ん中の
every
なんか
second
こ
of your
う
inevitable
爆発しても大丈夫そう
from
だ
the moment we fade in until the moment I say,
やりだしやりだしマジで爆発した The end is never. 最初に戻った？
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
今のが
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
1個目のエンドっ
Perhaps he had
てこ
simply
と？
missed a memo.
何もできんかった。まああのボタンを何かしらするんだろう。でもなんか数字なんか全然
When
直
Stanley
感
came
的
to
で
a
はな
set
い
of
感じ
two
だよね。
open doors, he entered the door on
直
his
感的とい
left.
うかシンプルなただただ押すだけではないって感じだったね。やっぱりさっきのここはここに繋がったよね。まあさっきと
Yet there
違う
was
方
not a
向も
single person here
でき
either.
ながら試してい
Feeling a
こうか。
wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office.
下行って
Hoping
み
that
る
coming
か。
to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to
も
his
し行っ
boss's
たらあれが待って
office.
るもんな。
But Stanley just couldn't do it.
はい。
He considered the possibility of facing his
ここに
boss,
車？
admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired
ああ、
for
こ
that.
れが
And in such a competitive
ちょっと
economy,
メッセージ読
why
み
had
直さ
he
ないんです。
taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished.
あ、上司
His
に会いたくな
boss
かっ
would
たか
think
ら
he
こっ
was
ちに来た
crazy.
みたいな
And
返し
then
方された。
something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am
1、2、
crazy.
B4。
All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously
気にな
out
る。
of
でも、
existence in a single moment for no reason at
ちゃん
all.
と紙に見ま
None
す
of
ね、
it
これ
made
ダメ
any
な。
logical sense. And as
奇妙な
Stanley
感じが
pondered
つきま
this,
した。
he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did
確かに。
doors close automatically
メ
behind
タじゃん。
him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating?
も
No,
しかして作り
Stanley said to
話
himself,
ち
this is all too strange. This can't be real.
思い当たる
And
節
at
がありまし
last,
た。
he came to the
はい。
conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming!
お
He
お。
yelled. This is all a
それな
dream.
らついつもがありますね。
What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone.
まあ、夢
He
落
wasn't
ち
going to lose his job. He
には
wasn't
ならな
crazy
そうな
after
気がする
all.
けど。
And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my
早
boring
くその一点
real
戻
life
る。
job pushing buttons. I may as well
あ
enjoy
れさは
this
一体
while
何
I'm
だと
still
思って。
lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and
お
began
お
to
お
gently
おおいおい
float
おい。
above
ち
the
ょっ
ground.
と今、無謀中やろがい。
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield.
あ、移動したら
And
消え
it
た。あ、
too
あ、
appeared.
あ。
It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had
Oh.
still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then
目が
perhaps
覚
the
めない。
strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a
2、
voice in my
B、
head
4。
dictating everything that I'm doing and
すべて
thinking?
話すことが頭の中に響いているん
Now
だ。
the voice was
それはそう。
describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange.
大体でいい
I'm
か。
dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a
う
dream.
ーん、夢じゃない。
Could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself?
夢なら責任を取る必要はない。
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain
ループしてるってそういうこと
that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just...
A、B、11、12。
He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was
あ
a
あ、ルー
dream.
プしてるね。
So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake
あ
up,
あ、起きてくれ。
he thought to
起きる
himself.
か、そろそろ。
I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over.
目を開けると、ベッドの上でした。
Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job.
ああ、唾いるんだ
All
ね。
I
すげえ孤
want
独
is
っぽ
my
かったけど。
life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
自分のことを自分のことを。ダメでした。
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
なんだ。本物なんだわ。どういうことだ。翻訳が変なだけかな。
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
マリエラ。はい。
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. Then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and
死んでんのかーい。絶対にしちゃいけんだろ。まあわかるよ。まあなんかいろいろさ、失敗とかするからさ、なんか、ね、友達とかがちょっと失敗してるのを見ると安心するっていうのはね、あるよ。だからこそ、まあ、そういう失敗を受け入れて、まあ自分もするから、まあそんな怒ったりせずに、優しくしてあげようっていうのが、私の考えなんだけど、終わり今のがエンドか。エンドも見ましたか。爆発。ループ。何もまだ明らかになってないけどね。謎も、マリエラも、何だったんだ今の若いさも。何のために入ったんだ。謎。マリエラがまず同僚がいない。誰もいない。仕事がない。で頭の声。でマリエラね。狂った男はまあいいか。